Sorry, guys.
Good?
Yeah, we're good.
Hello, guys. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Grange TV. We have with us it's only a very, very select few here today. We have with us Mr. Dave the Turncoat Roberts.
Don't be like that, man.
He's left me posted on a few times. But,
Don't listen to him, Dave.
but this one was pretty bad. And we have with us Mr. Robert, the biracial angel, Whittaker, Australia and New Zealand's own Mr. Robert Whittaker. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, I guess. Yeah, the count was a bit rough today, but we're trying some new things out. So I'm Team Dave. I'm Team Dave.
I bet you are Team Dave.
So we're trying a bunch of new things. We're actually streaming. This is our first time we're streaming live to Twitch as well. So yay for us.
What can you explain a little bit about that? Your Twitch channel and all that
the
type
Twitch
of stuff?
channel.
I don't know. So
yeah,
tell us exactly.
Twitch is like a platform that people can go to help to watch people playing video games, and also help them with like subscriptions and payments so that they can do that full time and entertain people.
We do a lot of your video games on there?
Yes, so I stream quite regularly Elder Scrolls Online. So it's a great game. But today,
what
Elder Scrolls Online. It's an MMO, so massive multiplayer online role playing game. So yeah, it's an online game. You log on, you see there's hundreds of thousands of other people in the servers, and you just play with them. Usually I play with Pete and all those fellas.
What's the objective of the game?
It depends. Like these things are like called sandbox games. So sandbox in a sense that you can do whatever you want. Like you can kind of make your own goals, and that's kind of how you can play the game. So you can go on adventures, you can do quests, you can just hang out with your friends, you can build things, and things like that. That's why they're so appealing to people. It's because you can just do whatever you want.
But I don't understand. Like how you have a character, and that character
gets stronger. So you level him up, you kill things, you get stronger. Yeah, you kill things.
To what purpose?
To kill harder things. Yeah.
You play those games, David?
Not old school. I think back PlayStation 3. I think SOCOM. Some of those early interaction games, but it's next level now.
Yeah, like especially like the MMO RPGs. Like they're huge. Like you have communities, guilds of people, friends and stuff that all get together and have like. They have like events and stuff where they all get together and hang out, but through the game. It's a great way to socialize.
Is it?
It is. Like honestly, I think that's where like society's shifting. You know, it's the same. Like I don't get time to see my best mate Pete and my best mate Dan and stuff like that. I don't get time to go out of my way and go see them.
See that, David? See who his best mate is? Not you.
Settle down, mate.
Not you.
Just you've got issues, man.
Just for reference, in case people don't understand why this hostility is, tell me, Fab. Tell me why is there this feud at the moment? Because you guys were tight. You guys were Ashcroft. Yeah, Ashcroft brothers.
I don't have any problem with David. I just think
I'm not feeling the love. I'm just saying.
I just think someone turns their back on the truth. More importantly, because that's the side that I'm on.
No, man.
Because they're nobodies and nothing.
I think that's the problem, is that you can't handle the truth.
And last week with the editing of the Mortal Kombat thing, where you flicking the machine on and off, that was fucked up too.
It was funny when that happened, because you were like, "Nah, it still counts," and you thought you were winning, and then it comes back on, and I was winning, and you were like, "No, that bullshit."
No.
But yes, so the Twitch Rob Whittaker MMA, if you want to jump onto it, that's the Twitch tag. We're running live there as well, simultaneously to YouTube, so it's great. Hopefully we can get our podcast, our viewers out there, get our message across to more platforms.
Can you like and subscribe, please, as well to, I don't know, the Twitch stuff, but definitely the YouTube stuff. And if you can subscribe to Twitch, you can subscribe to Twitch,
yes,
don't you?
And feel free to turn on notifications so that you know when we're doing these.
Awesome. I guess the topic of today's conversations, we're going to talk a little bit about your training camp, how you feel this training camp at this point compared to how you felt to this point, I guess, in the last training camp. Dave's probably going to ask a lot of those questions, facilitated, because some of those questions will probably be directed to me as well. But I want to really get your point of view on it as well. More than anything, I want to get your point of view on it. And just see how it's going. I think probably trying to give people a good insight into, I guess, what training camp. First, we don't really have training camps, I suppose, but what goes into the preparation and what you feel, what as an athlete, and what you feel this time compared to last time, I suppose. So yeah, Dave, do you have anything you want to kick off with, or do you want me to kick off?
That was going to be my question. What is a training camp?
All right.
Well, I guess broadly, a training camp is a fighter gets a fight locked in, so like a set date, and then the camp is usually a period where they focus their training. It's usually generally seen as more intense, harder, so that you get fitter, stronger, smarter, all the way up into the fight, so that you come into your peak form come fight time.
I have a question for you. How long do you get the bout agreements? Like, how much time do you have?
It really is it depends. It depends. There are a lot of factors involved with when you get a fight agreement, like what sort of fights are happening and things like that. And the factors that play a big role in it is like where you are in the rankings, who you're waiting for, or how your opponents are going. Like when I fought Jacare then Romero, I fought Jacare, and then it was something like 6 weeks after it, I fought Romero straight after. And the thing is, like, we weren't given a huge notice, but we took the fight because it was for the interim belt. We had to do it. It was a time to do it. And they're the sort of factors that play in like the time you get your bout agreement. Let's say perfect world, generally you get about 12 weeks out, and usually not any less than 8, but unless special circumstances.
Okay. And so how do you formulate the fight camp?
Well, for us in particular, like our whole mentality, and, you know, this is your mentality because you've kind of structured how we train, is that we don't do camps. We don't do camps. We stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I love that mentality, even though I failed it a couple of times. But I do love that mentality, and that's kind of the direction like we lead with this sort of stuff. But yeah, and usually like the camp part of it is more so like the coaching staff manipulating the training to capitalize on holes or weaknesses of a particular opponent. You know, so like we may start tweaking things, and it's usually you guys are manipulating the training. Like, yeah, you would be better to answer this really in terms of like structuring our camp, if you would.
I think the important things are, like, the first one is if you say you sign, let's make it 12 weeks out, which is 3 months, right? So you do 6 weeks. You have two 6-week blocks, or whichever way you want to look at it, 3-4 week blocks. The last week, let's say 10 days to a week, is really cutting weight, etc. And you might be traveling too, so that depends as well. Like, we'd like to get to wherever we're going at least 2 weeks beforehand. But so the last 6 weeks, realistically, which is the period that we're in now, that time frame is more around making sure that we're hitting our weight targets and that we're not getting injured, not getting hurt. That goes for any preparation, because realistically, the fitness goals that you make the fitness gains that you'll make in these last 6 weeks for already an incredibly fit person are very, very slight, very small. People feel a lot fitter, but that's because you're losing weight. You're going to lose from, if you're walking around at 96, you're going to get down to 91, 92 for a little bit. So you're going to feel that you're, you know, fighting weight, so to speak. Yeah, you feel fight, and you are more what's the term? Efficient. You know, like me and Justin Lang were talking about this the other day. Like we had Craig Alexander here, ultra marathon runner and freak of a human. We talk about 100-meter runners. Those guys don't walk around at race weight year round. You know, you still get a 100-meter runner that can run sub-10s. You know, they won't be but they have to be at a certain weight to run sub-10s. Without being at that weight, they're still going to run, you know, very fast, you know, but they won't be running that sub-1000 year round. You know, there's a peak. But those last 6 weeks, the effects of VO2 max and all that are reasonably small. You know, so if you're not ready by those 6 weeks, you know, those last 6 weeks, I think, is more about applying tactics, and this is us. The other people are going to say, no, it's bullshit. I think, well, cool. For us, more applying your tactics, getting yourself ready, understanding how you need to attack, etc., etc. So and we can afford to do that because prior to that, the whole year you've been in shape. You've been competing in wrestling, competing in jiu-jitsu, and that's the only way to stay ready so that you can have a longevity in the sport. You can have good performances.
Yeah.
So with that, what are you saying is that 6 week period is more
the last 6 weeks.
The last 6 weeks, is it purely strategy?
No, it's not purely strategy, but
it's a lot of strategy, a lot of tactics, like small technical tweaks, and more importantly, sustaining your fitness and all that you've built up beforehand.
I think another thing is like say to take Israel Adesanya now, for instance. The reality is like I've known about Israel for a long time. We've known about Israel for a long time before he signed with the UFC, whatever, and he was a phenomenal fighter. To try and worry about Israel per se and mimic him, you're not going to find another Israel to come in for you to mimic him, for you to deal with. So we try and deal with making the best Rob possible for the performance. So we're not going to have, you're not going to be able to get Israel. So you're going to be able to say, all right, the best thing to do is to work on the things that we see Rob doing. What can he do against Israel? What are his best weapons? How are we going to make a situation where he's going to be able to put those best weapons forward?
Yeah, that's kind of how we've always approached fights, eh?
Yeah.
It's like...
and we do break down each person as well, don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Well, we'll just work on us. We'll worry about us. We'll make sure that we're the best we can be and, kind of let them worry about it. Let them adjust.
There are things where... with each person, you do see idiosyncrasies in each person that you're going to fight, and you can also make small changes to try and appease that. But it's very hard for you to mimic someone like say for example, just because you're tall doesn't mean you're going to fight like Israel. Just because you're rangy doesn't mean you're going to fight like Israel. Doesn't mean you're going to have that game or. In honesty, it's the mindset that he's going to have and the mindset you're going to have going into the night. It's very different to a sparring session as well. So you can get in, some tall guys and everything. That's very, anyone can sort of work that out. If you can get some tall guys in, great. But more it's about getting ourselves right and being able to approach it in that way.
So we briefly spoke before about watching tape of your opponents and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of this period building up to it, how much tape do you watch of a potential fighter, or is it still just fully you're watching more tape on Rob and just trying to find out those little gaps of improvement, or is it a combination?
That's you.
I guess it's me.
Yeah.
The tape's been watched. Do you know what I mean? So we'll watch all of us, all the other coaches as well, Justin and Alex in particular, Charlie. Charlie watches a lot. Charlie's Rob's Muay Thai coach. Before that was Stu McKinnon, which Stu McKinnon did a lot. As also, what generally happens is we'll watch a lot of different fights of both, in this case, Israel and Rob, and start to look at different things that you see. We'd speak with all the other coaches and we start to break down, like I said, idiosyncrasies that could have happened. But by this stage now, I'll still look at videos and that, I'll still look at tape, but we've kind of formulated what we want, and now we're just making sure that we're going over that game plan. By this stage, man, we're just getting ready to fight now.
So when you talk about the team, for the people, because I think I spoke to you before. What is the difference between the styles, and then how do you get a good balance with them? So what is Muay Thai as opposed to wrestling or jiu-jitsu? And for the people who are not really adverse with MMA, what are the different styles that you put into your game, Rob? And why? What is Muay Thai? What is karate?
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why? What are these things?
Why'd you pick the specific disciplines that you have as part of your training regime?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of why mixed martial arts is so exciting and so dynamic. It's because there's a lot of different styles being put into one sport, one competition, one event, and And,
but why'd you pick the training people that you have with their particular styles and skill set? Why'd you pick them?
Well, and this is just my opinion. To fight at a high level in the UFC, you need wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and striking, and you need those three. Obviously, those categories are very broad. So if I say striking, there's very broad. There's like boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Kung Fu, and then there's multiple different types of kickboxing and multiple different types. Like it just
go on and on and on.
Yeah, and that's the same with jiu-jitsu and wrestling. But I think those three categories are like the big.
They're the staples.
Yeah, they're the staples. You need those three to compete at the high level. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself get exposed one day, and that's how that's why we do and we train the way we do is because exactly that. You fight someone with like Yoel Romero and you don't wrestle, you're going to get taken down and taken advantage of. Yeah. You try to strike someone like Uriah Hall and you don't have any striking ability, he's going to knock you out. Same with jiu-jitsu. You find like Jacare, you don't do any jiu-jitsu and you get taken down, it's going to be a very short fight. Even if you do jiu-jitsu, it'll probably be a short.
It'll be a horribly long one.
What's the difference between jiu-jitsu and wrestling? What's the difference between jiu-jitsu and wrestling? Like, in terms of building your skill set, what's the difference between?
Well, you see, we more see it as grappling, I guess. Like a healthy mixture of both. But in terms of like sport sense, like jiu-jitsu is generally like ground fighting, and wrestling is you start standing.
Two big differences for the lay person's this. Olympic freestyle wrestling rewards the takedowns a lot. Jiu-jitsu does as well, but Olympic freestyle wrestling generally rewards that a lot more. And in the groundwork, there's no submissions in wrestling, so you're not allowed to push. You're not allowed to push against a joint, and you're not allowed to submit. Like if you choke someone, it has to be accidental. They have to have an arm in. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you're allowed to choke. In jiu-jitsu, you can be on your back, and in wrestling, you can't. These are the very, very, very basic differences. So wrestling has a lot more emphasis because of those rule sets. There's a lot more emphasis on the takedown and in trying to get your opponent on their back and keep them there. Which they can't. They can only be on their back for like 1 second in Olympic freestyle. That's the very, very basics. Now, why we do a mixture of them and why you implement both of them in MMA is because wrestling is going to be able to dictate whether you have the person standing up or on the ground. Wrestling is going to help you dictate if you can hold that person down. And jiu-jitsu is going to help you with certain positions on the ground and with the ability to finalize the fight with a submission, whether it's a joint lock or a choke.
Same thing in striking. So, like, what do you classify the difference between, say, like a Kung Fu versus Muay Thai or whatever it's called? And then your boxing is what's the fifths, and kickboxing is a combination of fifths and legs. So what one do you generally lean towards, Rob? Like when you're looking at a striker, you're known more of a striker. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I do boxing with Justin Fitzgerald, and I do kickboxing with Charlie Baswadi. So those are my two guys. Like they're the styles that I employ. But my own personal style comes from back when I started karate. Like all the different types of striking that I've done up to today have changed and molded me into my own sort of stand-up game. Because
your background, you started as a karate kid.
As a karate guy, Goju-Ryu, George Barunas, shout out.
from always, eh?
Yeah, so like
how old were you?
I was 6 or 7. I started karate, and I went through all the way up until my teenagers, and then I swapped to jiu-jitsu, hapkido, and then jiu-jitsu MMA, and then boxing, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu, wrestling. So my style takes a lot of traits from karate because that's where my foundations in the striking form is. That's why you can see like I bounce a lot, a kind of outside fighter sort of thing.
I think another important thing to note is when we're picking the coaches in that, which I honestly believe is one of the areas where I see some teams at fault with. We pick the coaches based off people management and the ability for us to work as a team and be congruent. So we don't pick, for example, I need a jiu-jitsu coach. Any coach will do. No, so the head of the grappling program is Alex Prades. So he will find a coach. We will discuss if we need another coach in, if we need a certain person in or whatever. We're not just going to pick someone just because they're good at jiu-jitsu, but there's no congruency with the rest of the team. So all the guys that we have on the team, they're all guys that we've known each other for a very long time, and there is congruency with what we do.
Yeah,
that's very, very important. I see it in other teams. Like the jiu-jitsu coach doesn't talk with a striking coach. The striking coach has a Muay Thai background, so he doesn't speak to the boxing coach, or they disagree or whatever. So there's got to be an ability to interchange ideas and an ability to communicate throughout the team
and be flexible. It's very 100%. Important to be flexible because, like you said, like none of my coaches try to force me into a style or position or role that I'm not comfortable with. They work around me and then just help me improve what I'm doing. They do little tweaks to make my kicking game stronger whilst keeping my original kicking technique. You know, they just touch everything up. You know, that's that's a big key to how we've run things so far.
So I've seen you don't stop training. You train. But how do you both identify improvements in your skill sets from a coach point of view and the fighter? So what's that measure? You know what I mean? Like, do you get gold stars if you do this particular thing in a particular way? Like, how do you know that you're improving?
How do I quantify? You know, real simple. If you think you got good wrestling, like let's say you haven't got a wrestling background, and you think you're a good wrestler, and you go down to a wrestling tournament where there's some good 17, 18-year-old kids, they're going to roll you. They're going to roll you pretty easy. If you don't have a jiu-jitsu background, and you think your jiu-jitsu is good enough, go into a jiu-jitsu comp. Go do a purple belt jiu-jitsu comp in a gi, and you're going to find out your jiu-jitsu is not that good. If you think your boxing is that good, but you haven't really got a boxing background, put the gloves on, go and spar some good amateurs, just some good amateurs in. You're going to get a reality check. A lot of these guys honestly don't do that. They don't box with boxers. They don't do jiu-jitsu with jiu-jitsu guys, and they don't wrestle with wrestlers. So they think they're better than they are because they're very tough. They're very strong. They're good fighters. They can fight. But as far as skill-wise is, when you get in there and you realize, like, 18-year-old purple belt kid just tapped me 5 times, you know what I mean? Like, that's how good I am. Okay, cool. You know, because in the octagon, maybe no one can tap you, you know, because it just hasn't played out that way. But once you start doing that, you get a good reality check. So, sorry,
No, that's exactly it. That's our whole team's mentality. Like, in the off seasons, we compete a lot. We invite some high level guys there. Like, trust me, you think you're good at jiu-jitsu, or you think your jiu-jitsu's getting better, invite Craig Jones down.
After Craig Jones came to our gym, I stopped training. I was just like, no, you know, honestly, who made me not want to train was Sergio Pena. Like he demotivated me so much. Like, I was just watching him and I was just thinking, like, I don't know anything, man.
Anything.
Like, it's a massive sobering thing. Like, skill wise, you don't know anything. But then, like, I think you're asking from how do we grow, like, as a coach, like, my background is a teacher, and I think teachers are one of the most underrated professions. And unfortunately, the thing with teaching as well, when a teacher gets to about, in Australia anyways, $90,000 to $100,000 a year, say if you're an engineer and you've been working in the industry and you're good, you can jump to like 150, 160 in your mid-40s. That's pretty reasonable that would happen. As a teacher, you kind of, unless you want to go into something that's not teaching, like into like a management role or something different, you're kind of always going to be at that level. So what happens with a lot of teachers is, unfortunately, the good ones end up going into other roles that aren't teaching or leaving and doing private sector stuff. So the thing that I was going to say with teaching, being that I'm a teacher, I'm able to identify like skill gaps. I'm able to put learning programs together, and I have access to people that work in education and work with how people learn. So not just I don't just look at jiu-jitsu people or wrestling guys or fighting guys. A lot of the knowledge comes from the education sector, because they're the people that do that. The same way as jiu-jitsu guys choke people out, educators educate. So I have a lot of background with that ability to be able to check my own abilities as a coach and whatnot with what's happening in the combination of skills and the education sector.
Yeah, I guess in terms of me finding out what my skill set is, I have a great team. Like they never stop training, and you can see like when we roll and when we spar, when we move, when we drill, you can see them getting better. The gap's closing slowly and surely, and then when I start to get better, I start to increase that gap a little bit, and then they catch up again, and then it's just like the cat and mouse sort of thing, like constantly. And yeah, it's great, having those guys that train at that level, that are at that level.
What I tell you, a lot of people won't do is Rob goes and competes in wrestling, in just normal wrestling comps, and Australia's not known for its great wrestling, but it still has decent wrestlers, like at the national level, and he'll lose some matches. You know what I mean? And that puts you in check. That puts you in check completely. If you want to see how good your boxing is, and put gloves on and go spar Jaya Patea, you know what I mean, and see how you go, see how you fare. Or you kickboxing, go and spar the McKinnon brothers, go and do jiu-jitsu with Craig Jones, go into competitions. Rob and the other boys went to the Asian Abu Dhabi trials to get more experiences to see where you're at. So there's no lying in those results. You can give him a black belt if you want, but you can't just bribe everyone in the comp to lose, you know what I mean? Because we're trying to look after Rob's ego.
Well, that was my next question, is around ego. How, Rob, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but how do you keep an ego in check when you're on this pedestal, you're the champ, but then you're going to compete in Asia or whatever, and people are beating you? Like, is that...
Fucking hell, listen, this guy just way to bring it up.
No,
a person beat him.
No, but it's fucking tough, man. There has to be some ego in there, surely. And how do you keep it in check? Well, Fab's one. He fucking just tells you straight.
Yeah, it's funny, because the thing is, I don't go to these comps thinking I'm better than everybody else, but it still sucks losing. And when I lose, I have to face. I don't have to, but I choose to face the harsh realities that, man, I haven't been doing the right thing. I haven't been training as hard as I could. I haven't been increasing my skill sets in the months before. I haven't been improving, and that in itself is very, for me anyway, personally, it's very hard. It's very hard for me. I have a depressive personality, so when things like that arise, and I look at myself and I see that I haven't been growing and I'm not doing the right things, I feel behind, and I start to get depressed. And it's even hard for me to talk about. Really, it's hard for me to talk about. I've never talked about this sort of stuff, but I get depressed in losing, and seeing how far I've fallen.
Clarifying that though, when you're talking about getting depressed, you actually mean depression. You don't mean I'll get sad when I lose.
No, they're sad, but I start to go in a downward spiral into what you would call depression, because when that starts to happen, it's hard. I feel, and the problem with depression is that you don't see it creeping up on you. You don't notice. You don't all of a sudden be like, well, I feel terrible, I must be going through depression. What starts to happen is it's subtle and it's sneaky and it creeps in, and you just start to. It starts slowly. You just don't want to go out, or you just don't feel like training, or you don't want to go. Your mate will call you, And instead of answering, you just be like, I can't bother. And you put it down. Or you'll get text messages and you'll be like, and you just don't want to, you feel like you just can't be bothered replying to text messages. And that's how it starts, and then you're trying to get out of sessions because, one, there's no feeling like drive taking you there to do it. And two, because the feeling of going to the session and getting absolutely hammered and feeling like unfulfilled because like it's just double backing on itself. Like you go to the session, you don't perform well, and then you sit back and you look at yourself and you think like, well, I'm not performing well because I took all these months off or because I haven't been doing the right things. And then you're double depressed and then you don't want to go to the next session. And then like, and myself, like I don't like I start to really retreat within myself and just feel bad. I just feel terrible. I feel unmotivated to do things, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And
just from what I know of you as well, just to clarify, it isn't like that doesn't come from the loss. That comes from when like you lost because you haven't been training. Because I think like if you went out there, and I've seen this as well, you've gone out there, trained everything, and you just got beat that day. You don't like it, but that doesn't send you into depression.
No. It's exactly.
Do you want to clarify that a little bit more?
Yeah, so like everybody loses. I'm very comfortable. Like it's not comfortable to lose, but losing when you know that you've done everything in your power to win is all right.
I think with you, like Mario Sperry said this to us. I think with someone like you like the fight and the competition more than the win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the win is just a result of.
Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't. It's not like you lose a jiu-jitsu match that you've prepared for and you fall into depression. That isn't the case at all. That's not that.
Yeah, and that's how I am. Like I it's not about for me to feel good. I need to know that everything that I am on the right track, that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. So all the boxes are ticks. I'm hitting my training. I'm hitting my other businesses. I'm doing everything right. Everything's well. I'm spending equal amount of time with my family, my wife, my friends. Everything has to be like balanced, really balanced. And if I'm doing that, I'm on top of the world. Like where, truthfully, like where I am right now, I'm on top of the world. I am the best I've ever seen. People are saying that to me. That I haven't said that before. There's the generic, oh, hey, you look great. How you doing? But no, the people that I hang around with usually they're saying you look great. Like things are going well. And that's how I feel now. But for instance, like the last camp, I was in a really, really, really bad place. And when I'm not training, and then getting back to training is hard because I wasn't training and I'm behind. Feeling behind is bad for me. And then like when the training's not well, and one part of your life is fracturing off and starting to come down, everything else starts to come down, off the back of it. That's why, like we've spoken about it before, having a healthy family life is important for your success in the octagon. Having a healthy training life is important for your family life. They all correlate with each other. And so once one thing starts to plummet pretty bad, everything was just starting to fall apart.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by once one thing starts plummeting?
So I'll use the last camp as an example because it's the most relevant, most recent, and I guess it's a thing I haven't really spoken about to people, and it's hard for me to speak about it completely openly, even now, because we've talked about it a lot. I'm very when I come across things I don't want to talk about, I kind of what's the word, like withdraw. I've done it on the podcast a few times. Apologies, but it's just something like I just withdraw and I don't want to talk to people and I don't want to talk about a certain thing, and I can't verbally tell you I don't want to talk about it because like my mind is kind of not working well. It's like scrambling. That's the word. It's scrambling for something to say to make you stop without saying it. And I guess the easiest way, like that's why. I think when I was younger, like I was quick to temper because anger is the most easily.
It's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, it's the most easily accessible emotion to just withdraw, to whip out and just cover things, mask things. So last camp was hard because the injury off the second Romero fight, I had to take some time off because of my hand, and then we had the Ultimate Fighter.
We were at the Ultimate Fighter house with your hand in a cast.
Yeah, so that we had that huge block of like three months of just filming and not much training because of my hand and doing and just doing that and not being in my routine and not being able to train properly. Well, I could have trained, but it was hard because like.
Well, you did train.
We did train, but it wasn't. I don't know. It was there were a lot of distractions. There were a lot of distractions straight after that fight, and then when we got back to, and it was hard. It was very hard mentally. It was draining physically, and it was just very hard. So that when we came back to Australia, I was already like out of shape. Like I wasn't I think because of how hard it was mentally stressful over there. I was eating so much. And and like I was injured. I've never been the best injured fighter, injured trainer. So like whenever I get injured, like I hate not training at 100%. I hate not training like hard because of a limiting factor such as a broken hand or a torn ligament. I hate not. Everyone does, but this is what I'm saying. Like for my own sake, from my opinion, like I hate training injured.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that other people do or don't. You're talking about you.
Yeah.
Your sore back's your sore back. Yeah.
So I hate training injured. And so I never feel like I've trained properly. And that's kind of the start of like how I start to feel down. Because I feel like I'm not training properly. And
can I say something? I see a big thing, and I think something that probably affects you even if you don't realize it. I think a lot of the times people have like, they think they're helping, but they're like, you know what you need to do, mate? You need to get back to training, and training's good and you enjoy it. And, you know, when I'm feeling down, I'll go and train. And like, I know because I can see it in your face that it's like, fuck you. Like, that's not what we're talking about. That I think is like, I think it's great to hear from you because mental health is a problem across the board with all different people. And like, people hear that and they go, well, and I also want to put it in context. That's why I kind of interrupted. When you say, I don't like to train, when Rob says he doesn't train well with a broken hand and this and that, and people are going to say, well, my cousin, he broke his arm and then he didn't matter. He still trained and blah, blah, fucking good. In fairness, Rob trained still with a broken hand, and the guys that were in the house that wanted to train, Rob was rolling with them with a broken hand. So he was still doing all of that. But what you feel is what you feel. Yeah. It's not, and the thing with mental health a lot of times is it's a subjective truth, but it's your truth.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it is. It's like I was still training with the broken hand, but I was feeling down like because of it. And that was just kind of the start of a real bad downward spiral before the last camp. And then we got back to Australia, and then I was behind in the training. We're like expectedly behind because of the broken hand, because of the distractions, because of all that. I was behind. But then getting back into training behind again and not being at where I wanted to be started affecting me mentally again. Like it just doubled up on that. It just played another factor, and I was down because I wasn't hitting the goals I wanted to hit. And then and then I started, and once I start to get into that depressive spiral, I don't want to train anymore. Like I start to look for excuses not to train. I start to look for reasons not to train. Like I go to Sophia, I was like, is anybody in the house sick? Yeah. like I just anything not to train. Like and then when I'm real bad, like the idea of leaving my house is beyond anything. Like I think of any reason under the sun not to go, to cancel, to anything. And you know, because I ring you up with an excuse that like doesn't even make sense. Like Sophia got injured in a horse riding accident. It's like you don't own a horse, nor does Sophia ride. Like, but yeah, and it's crazy. Like, and the thing is, it's not that I hate training. It's that just I can't. That the idea of doing it is just. It's like when you're full and you see some food and you don't want to eat it because you're not full, but you love that food. Like, I love that food, but I just don't want to eat it because I'm full. That's how I felt like with the training and the mindset behind that, and it just got progressively worse, as the fight got put on, and then because I was depressed the whole camp, I just couldn't get into a healthy routine. I couldn't get to where I wanted to be. I couldn't get out of it. And then I started having the stomach troubles. So I started getting stomach pains, and which was really affecting my health. But every time I got checked and scans, it came back clear, like there was nothing wrong with me. And then that would affect my training. I'd start missing sessions because I went to hospital the night before, or because of this reason, or because like the pains kept me up all night. And like you guys don't know, like literally what I'm
if you got scanned,
yeah,
and it said there's nothing wrong,
100%,
and then you got depression and anxiety which has a correlation to to gut problems as well. You don't know.
Yeah, so like, and that's the thing. Like I'm not, and then I go to the session, and then I'm not performing because like the doctor said I had gastritis, and then I started. Then they said you might have IBS because of the fight and everything. And then I changed my diet to FODMAP, and then I wasn't eating enough, and then I felt weak, and then I'm going to these sessions, these hard sessions where I should be like coming to the peak of my training, like where I'm like almost ready to fight, like 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and I'm not performing at all, like at all. And the scans and the doctors say there's nothing wrong with me. Like my relationship with my coaches are like you're not where you should be.
No, and in fairness, I will say this: Rob is not a lazy trainer. He hasn't got a problem with training or anything like that. It's absolutely what he's saying in that sense. And leading into that Gastelum fight, probably a few weeks out, where we have certain tests where, today if he does them, he'll do really, really well, and he has done really, really well in some of the tests that we've done. He was probably, I don't know, like a good fit guy. You know what I mean? Not nowhere near where he would be today.
No, I was, and like we were looking at it like physically and mentally, like where I am right now. Like I was Gastelum fight fit like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
which is like ridiculous. Like, that's the gains,
So when, because I get depression, and spiraling is the best word for it because it compounds.
Yeah.
When you're at that bottom, what triggers you to get back into that zone where you can train again, where you can socialize, where you can, not feel like you need to sort of put on like a front and not go out?
Honestly, having a strong support circle around you, like having people you can talk to and people that are there for you constantly. Like obviously and I say this because like they don't fix it. They don't make it. They just make it easier to deal with. And it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. But like for me personally, and because everybody has they're all going through their own things. Like what works for me may not work for you, and what I'm saying may just seem outlandish to some people. But like for me, I reach a point where it's like do or die almost, where it's like, okay, I'm at rock bottom right now, and I either start again and start again from the ground up and start building up the foundations again, and just throw myself at everything and just no matter what, how I feel or how I like what happens, I just have to do it. I have to keep going. And I keep moving, and that's how I kind of get out of it. Like,
but what's crazy about that is because rock bottom's subjective too. Because in fairness, you could go way lower than where you were.
Yeah.
Way lower.
Yeah. I just reach a point where I have to start again, like in my own mind, and I just start building again. And I have to stay active. I have to stay busy. I just do everything. It's like when you get letters, paperwork, and you just like you put it to the side and you say I'll do it later, and you put it to the side and I'll do it later, and then you look back 2 months later and the pile's this big, and then you look at it and you're like I don't know where to start. Like that's where I'm at.
That's a brilliant analogy, I think, with mental health.
Yeah.
Like, because you know the other thing is the correlation between the mental health and the physical ability. Because I don't think that you can really split physiology and psychology the way I don't know Western medicine kind of does. Because what happens as well is, let's say your 1 RM was 100 kilograms, right? Like your 1 rep max was 100 kilograms. If you take 3 months off, you can't come back to lift 100 kilos. You're going to be lifting 70. And there's nothing that anyone can do. Nobody can say to you, Rob, try harder. Like, no, that's 70 kilos, that's it. But the problem is you have a mandate. You have to be ready in 8 weeks to fight. And Gaslam's not going to give a fuck about none of this. None of this is his problem. He's going to be like, dude, you're depressed. You can't lift. You haven't trained. Your hand's broken. Good for you. I'm going to try and kill you. And so we should. So we should. So I think like that's another thing that happens as well, because you can't, in fairness, correct me if I'm wrong, probably 2 weeks out from the Gaslam fight, things started to turn around psychologically, physiologically. But that's hard.
Yeah. And that's kind of when it happened, like where I kind of got out of it was 2 weeks out from the fight, something happened and like a switch went off in my head. And I don't know, I turned a corner with everything and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I am ready to fight. Let's do this. Which kind of helped me like and then I got sick. And then I got sick when
you got sick day of the weigh, day after the weigh, like after the weigh. Yeah.
Day of the fight. I went to surgery, emergency surgery for twisted bowel. And but luckily I had turned the corner like a week beforehand, 2 weeks beforehand, so that on the back of that, like I said, that pile of letters that I saw, and like where do you begin? I was ready. I just said, I'm going to start at the top and just go through it one letter at a time. And that's how I kind of got to where I am now. Like off the back of that surgery, I just got back into my routine. I started hitting the sessions. I just kept myself busy. And I was also kind to myself. Like I realized that like, okay, last camp was bad. It was a dark time. Let's make sure I keep a maintenance on everything else. Make sure everything's balanced. And when I start to when events do happen, like something happening with in the family or things like that with my parents or whatever, that I understand that okay, it's heavy. Let's evaluate like how heavy it is. Talk to people, and and just keep working, keep plugging along, keep walking.
Can you tell us then what happens? Like what you start to feel bad? Like what are how does your relationship with like ask your coaching staff, everyone, what are the effects on that?
It's like when I start to get depressed.
Yeah. It's
weird because like honestly, like it's a spiral because it takes you down. But the scariest thing is honestly is that you don't realize it's happening. It's subtle. It creeps into your life, and you don't realize you're depressed or how recluse and withdrawn you are to everybody around you until you're there and no one's talking to you anymore. A lot of people, and I feel.
Hold on 1 sec, sir. Dave, I can hear an echo. Can you hear an echo?
No.
I can hear an echo.
I can hear it. I think it's coming from your headphones into the microphone. Your headphones might be a bit loud.
You want to turn you down? Yeah. Hold on, which one's you? Is that better? Better.
Now I can't hear you.
Better?
Yeah.
Echo still there?
It's still loud. A little bit lower. Sorry, go on.
Echo there?
Yeah.
It's better.
No one's talking to you anymore.
Yeah, and you don't realize how withdrawn you've become and how depressed, like, and how far into that whirlpool of depression, like, you've sunk until, like, there's no one around you anymore, and your relationships are already on the cusp of like falling apart, and that's the most terrifying part about it, like, because you don't realize it's happening until you're there, and and it's not even one of those things where it happens once and you're like, you know what, that was scary, but now I know that it's there, because it's happened to me multiple times. And you think you're switched on for it, and it still gets you.
But you've also sought help, mental health.
Yeah.
So you have someone to speak to as well.
Yeah. So I spoke to Tim. He's a great therapist. We've had him on the podcast before. Very smart guy. Great guy to talk to. And it helps. It really does help talking about it, which is it's a big part of the reason why I'm even talking about it now, because I want to talk about it for myself, selfishly, I guess, like it's just so that I talk about it, so that I understand it that little bit better, and it just so I just feel more comfortable with it, I guess. And secondly, is for everyone else out there who suffers from depression. Like, people would look at me on paper and be like, what does Rob have to be depressed about?
I think that's one of the hardest things for you from an identity perspective.
Yeah.
Because if you do a checklist, what do you have to be What do you have to be depressed about?
Hasn't lost a fight in 9 fights. He's middleweight world champion, like multiple businesses, beautiful family, and things like that. Like but you do.
But that's
happens.
What a lot of people don't understand is that depression is caused by chemical imbalance, not by your bank fucking balance. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works. Are you better now at understanding the warning signs?
100%.
Do you want to talk a little bit on that? Because I think it's pertinent to the last podcast, because the last podcast we had a conversation about it.
Yeah. So
like, we don't have to get into the details yet about what occurred, but I'm saying if you want to speak about it.
Yeah, so like
the warning signs.
After the last podcast, like I think a lot of our viewers and subscribers saw that I wasn't myself, or that I looked angry. I think some people said I looked like I wanted to fight people or fight you, and that's not the reason. Like I had some family things happen earlier in the day that kind of it started triggering me into that sort of depression, like not depression, more so like withdrawing into myself, where I just want to deal with this, and I started to feel down, and like I mentioned earlier, it's like when I start to feel like that, I don't want to talk to anybody.
It actually started a couple of days earlier, I think, though.
Yeah.
I think by Monday, when we did the podcast Monday afternoon, you'd already gone through a lot of it.
Yeah, but then stuff happened that morning as well.
Yeah.
And I may discuss it one day or not. Like I'm working on this.
No.
Coming out of my shell, but I didn't want to talk to people. I wanted to do the podcast. I wanted to talk to the guys and to yourselves and be a part of the conversation. But I don't know. It's funny. I didn't, like when I was sitting there and listening to you guys talk, I couldn't formulate sentences in my head. I couldn't work out when I should speak or what I should speak about. And if I really cared, to be honest, like it's like the care factor just left. And because I'd sit there and I'd think about, okay, and then I'd think about my own sentence. I'd respond to whatever you guys are talking about in my head. And then I thought, I can't bother. and it like all these conversations I have in my head, but it translates to this on this the whole time. And that's just how it is. And you know me very well by this stage, like by now, so like afterwards we spoke and we were talking, because like for instance, like the Romero Costa fight, like when we were talking about that, in my head, because I was withdrawing and I was going through all my own sort of mental issues at the time, like, and you were talking about Romero Costa, and I was just like, fuck those guys, like fuck them both, I don't care, like I hope they bash each other to death, like I don't care right now. I just want to go home. I want to go see my kids.
Yeah.
I want to see my kids. Like that's kind of like that level of apathy, and just like, yeah, it's weird, mate. It's weird.
And it's not something like you can't snap out of it.
No, you can't just make yourself feel better.
No.
Like, and I think a lot of people who start to feel like this, one, they mask it. So they mask it with either staying busy or drinking or doing drugs or going out and sleeping with women. Like they mask it with activities and substances that force a chemical change in you, that force a chemical difference and emotion in you.
That re-triggers the depression as well.
Yeah,
100%.
It comes back afterwards twice as strong.
When you have, you're deeper.
Yeah, I don't have depression, but I've had real bad anxiety because I sit kind of on the polar. My personality, I suppose, sits like on a kind of polar opposite to Rob's. And when I have anxiety, people go like, "Oh, you need to relax." And I look at them and I think like, "Dude, I'm about to stick a fucking bottle up your ass, man. Just fuck yourself. Tell me to relax again, you piece of shit."
Yeah,
you know, like it's
yeah.
You can't just snap out of it.
That's the thing. It's like when I say, like, if I were to talk to people and say, like, I'm feeling down, they're like, you can just hang out with your kids. Go hang out with your kids. Hang out with your beautiful babies. Got beautiful kids. And I go home and yes, I have beautiful kids, but I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them and I'm just tired. And the only thing I want to do is go have a nap. Like, I just want to go nap. But then I feel bad for not spending time with my kids. And then I'm caught in that, like, I really, really want a nap. But then I'll feel I'll feel twice as bad for not hanging out with my kids. Or I will nap. It'll win. I will nap. And then I'll wake up feeling worse because I didn't spend time with my kids. It's, it's like depression and depressive, like mental health. Like it's real. And you just you have to be aware. You have to seek help. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like me having a depressive nature and getting depressed and suffering from depression sometimes, it doesn't make me less of the world champ.
No, I think another thing, Rob, is like when you look at people, for me anyways, especially after how bad I got that my episodes, like how they were bad, man. And after that though, you have like a fucking X-ray vision. You know what I mean? You see people that are masking it, but you see their insecurities. You see that, fuck, man, you're not on top of the world, man. You're pretending to be, but you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that it puts it in perspective too. You know what I mean? Like for yourself. Dave?
So with this, just to bring it back into training camp, like how often do you and Rob have these reality check conversations? Because it's so easy. Like this conversation started around ego and making sure your ego is in check, but then knowing
selfish prick.
but then knowing when to pull back, because these are not simple conversations. So like obviously you got to provide advice and for that from your angle, and then Rob, you got to receive it. But how do you gauge and how do you keep that? Because there's obviously great relationship between you to have those conversations to begin with. But how do you know when, all right, I need to give Rob space, or hey, Fab's going to break a bottle and stick it up someone's ass? How do I know to give him that space? Because you're together, and the whole team's together. Like it's hard to not get on each other's nerves and know when you're going through these phases.
I guess that just stems from like who you surround yourself with, and like you said, like me and Fab, we've been working with each other for a long time now. And when I say a long time, it's not like 25 years.
Probably 6 years.
It's been about 6 years, but the difference is that, like, especially earlier in the career, we were spending legitimately 8 to 10 hours a day together. Yeah. Like, we'd hop in a car and we'd head to the sessions and we'd be together all day. And, you end up, like, really knowing a person after you spend that amount of time with someone.
Another thing is, like, say when you have business partners, like, Alex is business partner, Rob and I are business partners, the three of us are business partners. There's work we do with you as business partners as well. You start to get, there's also a certain amount of intimacy that's involved in that. Like, you know how much each other earns, you know, like you have shared bank accounts, you have, like when you have businesses together and whatnot. So you start to really get to know each other. If you want to know someone, start dealing with money with them and
share a bank account.
Yeah, share a bank account. Start to get to know each other. Like you'll get to know people real quick. Another thing it comes back to, like I said, Dave, was like having that teaching background, having that people management background, where as teachers you might spend however many hours, say 10 hours in a day, with teachers, like teaching in the same classroom, spending time in the staff room, dealing with the head teachers dealing with the faculty and whatnot. And you learn to as well, like, you learn to exist within that ecosystem and put processes in place that don't allow for it to get to that point. So say, for example, on last Monday, I noticed straight away during the podcast, I noticed it straight away that like I knew because Rob and I had spoken earlier, but then in the podcast, I knew like, okay, now we're getting to a point where it's not healthy no more. And I could tell that more than like, if you didn't know him that well, you know what I mean? And I knew that had to be addressed there and then. I think the other thing with all our team, we all do communicate. Like, they'll, for sure I'll have to call some of the boys. They got fights coming up. They might have a small injury or something. But there's no point trying to have like a deep and meaningful conversation with someone that you have no rapport with. You have to have that rapport, and that rapport can't be fabricated. And I think that's something that when we pick that coaching staff, all the coaching staff do legitimately have that. And more so, it's not based on fight abilities, because the last thing I need to worry about is whether Rob or Jacob or Izzy or David or any of them can fight, because they can all fight. We need to make sure that their mental health is good, that their skills, that they're hitting their skill sessions, but also where they are in their mind. That's the most important thing, because if your mental health's not good, or it's waning, or you're not feeling good or whatever, it could be just something as simple as, because Jacob he teaches at one of the gyms for us. He teaches jiu-jitsu at Gracie Smith and Grange. Him and Izzy, actually, they're both going to teach at Gracie at Tarman as well. But it might be just as simple as just having a talk with them and understanding that, oh, hold on, they're teaching too many hours, and you could just take some of those hours off. And, but maybe they didn't want to talk to you because they didn't want to let you down, and then you're like, no, we can get someone else to teach our class. I thought you wanted to teach it. And he's like, no, fuck that. I don't want to teach our class, and that's all the conversation had to be. But if you don't have the rapport and you can't have that conversation, it just starts to think. And another thing, I think another big one is, I don't know. Have the right in your team to have disagreements and to have heated discussions, to have arguments, if as long as they're constructive. You know what I mean? You don't want a sterile environment where there is no flow of emotional flow of words, because if that occurs, yeah, okay, on a spreadsheet you don't have any problems, but in reality you don't know the person you're dealing with, so you can't. You can't interact with that person, you know what I mean? So I think that's important, and I think that we have a pretty open door policy, so to speak. I think that's important, and not that open door policy bullshit that you hear in the offices. We go, we have an open door policy. We don't give a fuck if your mum's dying. Here you go. Not that one, Yeah.
Rob, with that, do you ever feel like you're letting your coaches down during camp? You know what I mean? Because
yeah, definitely. Like when last camp, when I was feeling depressed and not hitting my own personal markers, I know I'm not hitting my coach's personal markers or my coach's standards, and I just start to feel like trash, and I think of myself as trash, and I just don't think I'm that good, and it just spirals down.
So with that, with your team, your team's very tight knit. Do you rely heavily on them and their motivation to sort of keep you at that peak performance?
No, not really. My in terms of what
Jacob and Izzy and all those guys, when you see them pushing themselves even though they're having a bad day, is that a trigger for you to say, oh, I can get through it?
Nah, it's not. If anything, it's like
to deter it?
For me, it's a demotivator. I don't know why. I'm just messed up like that. But no, I get more depressed when I see all the boys pushing hard and I'm feeling down and I'm not hitting my targets, and I don't feel like that. Like I get way worse. I don't know why that is. Intellectually I can see why that is, because they're experiencing something that I want.
Yeah.
We were just saying, Fab, that when I see Izzy and Jacob and all those motivated, hitting their sessions and going, does that motivate me to keep going? And it's the exact opposite. I get more depressed seeing them all pushing and feeling motivated because I don't feel like that. And I start to think that maybe I should be. and then I'm not hitting the targets that I want to hit, and I'm not hitting the coach's targets that I want to hit. And no, it's not a motivator; it's a demotivator for me. Like when I'm going through the depression, but like when I'm good though, and I'm on, and all the boxes are ticked, I'm right up there with them.
I think lack of motivation is a symptom of depression. I don't think it's a cause of depression. Do you know what I mean? So I think like generally Rob doesn't lack motivation, nor do any of the boys. But I think when it hits you, like say again, I can't speak on depression, but I can speak on having like the bad anxiety. When I had that and people go, hey man, you should go and do jiu-jitsu, it makes me feel really good. And I think good for fucking you that it makes you feel good. Yeah. You know, where's the fucking bottle? You know what I mean? Because that's not how I feel right now. I don't feel like doing jiu-jitsu. I don't feel like doing that. Then there are the other thing that people I don't think understand with any sort of mental health thing, because there isn't a separation with the physiology, right? So when you're depressed, when you have high anxiety, panic attacks, etc., there is a direct physiological correlation to your body. You know what I mean? So for example, you lose strength physically. You lose strength. Your body's not acting in that way. Like the relationship with adrenaline and cortisol is completely different to how it is if you're not going through that mental health problem. You know, so it's not a question of just like snap out of it, get motivated, look at these guys go. Like you physically not being able to do it, and it's a long, slow process back up.
Being like, it's hard to label. Like, so the head coach. So
I'm not the head coach.
Yeah, I know. That's like whatever the label is. Like, really, you have how big is the team? You standard team. There's what, 5.
We have like full time. We have Justin Lang, exercise physiologist, Justin Fitzgerald, boxing coach. Charlie's a Muay Thai coach. Alex is the head grappling coach.
Yep.
And then there's myself.
Yep. And then you got Izzy, you got Jacob.
We got so Izzy, Jacob, David, and Rob are the guys that are at the older guys that are fighting competitively and professionally. Jacob and Izzy are very close to signing with the UFC.
Yeah. So to make a successful camp, all those guys have got to be on, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, like if you're sparring with someone and they're not on, or if one of the coaches are feeling down, how do you look at, like, in terms of purely as a camp and as a highly functioning team? What are the key elements that you think that for this camp to work? Why? How do you keep everyone not feeling like they're not contributing to the best that they can?
I think it comes down to people management as well. I said, like, I think I answered it before in the fact that I think you have to have honest, real rapport with each person. And like for me, that means that I'll probably have with each one of those people, on average, probably doesn't sound like a lot, but probably half-hour conversation every day. So with each one of those guys. And then also you've got to understand, we also have a manager. Titus is a manager. Yeah. Adnan's our accountant. And we have certain key sponsors that have a lot of say. Then we've got like auxiliary business partners like yourself and other guys that work on the podcast with us and work on different things. So I generally have about a 20 or 30 minute conversation with each one of those people a day. That's my job in the team, more than skills-based stuff and that. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we just rattled off, 7 or 8 people. Yeah. You have a half-hour conversation with each one of those people. I don't know, I'm shit at maths. It's probably 3 hours of conversations there. Boom, gone. Do you know what I mean? And I can't then come back, because this is, I think people don't understand that. When I was working for TAFE, people don't understand that with the networks. They go, oh, you just know that guy. And I think, yeah, but I make a point to know that person, and you're not, like, people don't understand the value in that. So I can't just come and have a conversation with the boxing coach if I haven't been having that conversation every day. Do you get what I mean? And sometimes you have to have conversations with people that they're not going to like, and I'm the one that generally has to have that conversation. But luckily it's not that bad because you have that rapport, So it's more than anything, it's the people management.
So when you got the full camp...
Sorry, one more thing, Dave. Sorry, one more thing. the other thing for us is embedded in all of that are business. There are business enterprises that have occurred. You know what I mean? So we have gyms that we have together. We have, educational programs that we've launched. There's a lot of other things that are in play there. It's not just can you do an armbar, you know?
So what now? Like in the lead up to the next fight, what is training looking like for you guys? Like,
yeah, so like it's like the hard training, the hard fundamental foundation building training is being done. Like the fitness is there, the strength is there, the skills are there. We're just fine tuning everything to and sustaining the strength, still getting stronger, still hitting strength goals, like trying to get fitter, but the fitness is there, but why not try to get fitter and just fine tune all the strategies and tactics involved in this fight in October, you know, and getting there and feeling it 100%.
For me, like that last fight that he would have had with Gastelum, I was still confident in Rob's abilities because, in fairness, he's trained his whole life, But Gastelum's not someone he could take lightly, and nor did we take him lightly. But I didn't feel that Rob was his best, and that would have, I know it would have ate him up, and it would have ate me up too if he had lost. But this fight, we are under no illusions of how good Adesanya is, but Rob's prepared, and win, lose or draw, we can take that. You know what I mean? Even if he had won, honestly, if Rob had won the last fight with Gastelum, it probably still wouldn't have been good for our team because I know that he hadn't hit those targets, and you don't know if that would have said to Rob, well, this is okay, this is good enough to be like, it could have caused a different rift. Who knows? With Adesanya, whatever happens in that fight, we're cool because obviously we want to win. You know,
we've ticked all the boxes.
Yeah, you've done everything you can do, and then whatever happens, happens.
And that's how I feel. Like if I tick all the boxes, like it doesn't bother me. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to do my best, and if I don't win that one, I'll win the next one. And if I don't win that one, I'll win the next one. Like as long as I'm ticking all the boxes, doing everything I can, like inside, outside the octagon, with the business partners, like at home with the family, as long as I'm doing it all right, like I'm on top of the world. Like Cloud 9 is how I feel. It's when everything is balanced and flowing well.
So how important is it for you and the whole camp to have other things that motivate you besides the fight? So because obviously if Izzy was your wife for the next, how long was it? Like 3-4 months? You'll go psycho. So how important is it to? That's just the game. But what's the other parts for both of you? Like, if you know what I mean? Like, because you see a lot of comments around, oh, he lives in your head, or you know what I mean? Those sort of statements where obviously, and you said it before, you don't think about it. Like, how important is that in this sort of scenario where you don't let that be everything? That every conversation I have with you guys is not about fighting.
Yeah, it's like that. I've mentioned it a bunch of times in interviews and stuff that fighting is just a small part of life. Like it's a small part. Obviously, it's a large part, but in like the grand scheme of things, it's only a small part of everything I do. Like I do my sessions, I do my training, but then I go home, I spend time with my kids, I play my video games, I hang out, I talk to my friends, we work on our businesses. You know, it's only a small part. There's a lot more to life than just the fight and just Israel.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not fighting, so it's different. But to be honest with you, I don't have if they'd said you're not fighting Israel to Rob, you're fighting. I mean this as a general term. I don't want to get misquoted because if they changed it all on us completely, I'd be like, well, no, we're not going to fight jiu-jitsu specialists. We've been training to fight a long kickboxer. You know what I mean? We're not going to fight a short, nuggety jiu-jitsu guy. No. You know, but having said that, even then we'll probably say yes, having said that, because it won't really change. It really isn't about Israel. It's about Rob.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Israel wasn't fighting Rob, I wish him the best. I've always been a fan. I've always liked watching him fight. I knew he was going to get signed with the UFC. So, but it's not about him. It's just solely about Rob, and then solely about our team. So the motive, it's not really the motive. That's not the motivating factor. The motivating factor is just doing the best we can do day in, day out. And this is one of the business ventures, and it happens to be fighting. That's the reality.
Yeah, because I think there's probably a misconception that all you guys ever do is talk about fights and the whole camp is about fighting, but it's a bit deeper than that, isn't it? Like, it's not, your whole life isn't talking about, every conversation you have isn't about strategies or fighting, it's about life.
That would do my head in.
Yeah.
I think honestly, you'd be, if people were around us, you'd be surprised that the conversations about fighting are reasonably minimal. You know what I mean? Reasonably minimal. I read a book, a really good book called Sapiens, for anyone that wants to, I forget the author's name, but it's a very, very good book. And one of the things that it says the thing that allowed us to evolve was the size of our brains and our ability to communicate with language. And one of those things is gossip. You know, it's the ability to talk and decipher stuff and blah, blah. So most of the day, even for us, it's like talking about, I don't know, people at the shops, people at the gym, just normal conversations that anyone can have. That's why we pick people to be part of the team based on their ability to interact with us, not necessarily on the fighting ability. Like that's. I mean, obviously, that's all within reason. If you're going to be part of the inner group that fights, you've got to be able to fight. You know, otherwise, no, you're in the wrong place. Did you have any more questions? Or
No.
All right, I was just going to ask you, what do you think of Till moving up to fight Gastelum?
You said that age.
Hold on, I'm going to say this. Some degenerate is going to write. How long has the podcast been going for? An hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to say 1 hour and 3 minutes. Fight talk starts.
Oh yeah.
The podcast is not all about fighting.
Did they say that before?
Oh, so there's always some person that his sister beat him up. You know, when growing up.
1 hour, 3 minutes. Fight talk starts.
Yeah, like the whole. Why'd you listen to it the whole fucking time? Right. But guys and girls, that's what happens when you make out with your sister. So Till versus Gastelum. What do you think?
You called Till moving up. You called Till moving up
ages ago.
Yeah.
Which is fucking huge. So it doesn't make me Nostradamus or anything.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that fight. I think Gastelum is a great fighter. You know, I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a hard fight for anyone. You know, I want to say we saw Till get taken down against Woodley and handled on the ground, but Till got taken down after he ate the mother of all hands from Woodley. So maybe not. You know, and he's and Till has fought some wrestlers before and kept it standing. Again, we're looking at a rangy fighter, a long fighter, tall fighter, going up against Gastelum, a shorter fighter, stockier fighter. Over 3 rounds, it's going to be 3 rounds. You know, I'd have to lean towards Gastelum because Gastelum did really well against Adesanya in their fight, the first 3 rounds.
First 4, really.
First 4 rounds.
He lost 2 and 3, in my opinion.
I think, I would have to lean towards Gastelum. But then, I don't know, Till.
How do you think the knockout will affect him?
Till?
Yeah, because that was a bad knockout by Masvidal.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, obviously, he's going to be playing on him because before you get knocked out and before you get stopped like that or dropped or anything, you feel invincible. You fight differently. We're going to have to wait and see how he comes back from that. He's still a young fighter. Like, I don't see it affecting him too much. So, but then, you know, I think Gastelum's very strong at the moment. I think he's a very strong pick at the moment.
For me, I have to say I don't know because I don't know how people like going up a weight division like yourself. You came. I think what you've done, no one else has done. Like I actually think that I'm pretty sure that no one has ever gone up a weight division, remained undefeated for, I don't know, a bunch of fights and won the title. People have gone up and challenged for the title and won the title, but no one's ever gone up a weight division, remained undefeated and won the title. I don't think so. I could be wrong. Please, share it in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm not saying that that's a fact. I just think that that's the case. So it could be a case of that happens with Till. He comes up and just goes on a fucking tear. Or it could be the fact that he was a lot bigger than everyone else at welterweight, and that was a big advantage. Yeah. I don't know. Or he could come in massive at middleweight and just be full of strength and full of beans, and I don't know. And just dwarf Gastelum. But Gastelum, man, like I have to say the same thing with you. Like, he's a very, very good fighter. He's someone that's not. I don't know. I'm actually very, very interested in that. I'm interested more because I guess the enigma here for me and the unknown is Darren Till. Gastelum, we know. Gastelum's very good. Gastelum's all that he is.
Yeah. Gastelum's going to bring it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how Till's going to look at middleweight. I imagine he's going to look massive, and but Gastelum has dealt with big, strong strikers, big, strong wrestlers. He's dealt with everyone at middleweight. He knows it, so I have to lean towards Gastelum. That's me. Dave?
No idea.
And just talking about Poirier and Khabib.
Yeah, you know, I'm always pumped to watch Khabib fight. It's very the way Khabib has been fighting in his style and the things he's done. Like, you'd have to lean towards him. Like, he looks very, very, very unbeatable at the moment, and that's just how I feel. Like, everything. Like, and that's no disrespect to Poirier. I think Poirier is a great fighter. I think his fight with Holloway was amazing. I think he's come a long way since he started. Since he started fighting in the UFC and moving up in that upper echelon of
when he moved up to lightweight, I think that was when the big difference occurred for him.
Yeah, because he's just got so much whack now, you know. But like I said, like, you'd have to lean towards Khabib. He's the favorite. He just looks unbeatable at the moment. He does. He looks unbeatable, and like that's it. He just looks unbeatable with his skill set. He knows how to avoid getting hurt standing, and the threat of the takedown and being held down and mauled is always there.
You know how in the past, when people haven't slowed down, you see him, I don't know if struggling with the takedown is the word, but because Poirier is always fit, and he does get, like, he might get taken down, but he looks to me as being very fit and very physically strong. Do you think that can pose a problem for Khabib?
I don't see it. I can't see it. Because even those fights, he's had more trouble getting people down and holding them down. He still has. Like, I just find him. I just see, honestly, it's hard for me to even picture him losing, because he's so good at what he does, and he's so clever at what he does. He's so effective at it, and it's hard. It really is very hard to picture a fight he loses,
unless he just gets clipped or something.
Unless he gets clipped, and then that's like when Ronda got knocked out by Holly. It was like the whole world was upset, like crazy, out of the blue, and like that's how it'll be. With Khabib, it'll be like if he gets clipped and he's done like that, then the world will go crazy. But barring that, then I don't see him losing. I really don't.
Who have you got in a fight with Jones versus Miocic?
You know, I'd have to. I think that there'd be a factor on how Jones looks moving up. But I'd have to lean towards Jones. I think stylistically and skill set wise, Jones just has a much bigger arsenal and much bigger skill set than Miocic. Like, I think, because I don't think Miocic would be able to take him down and hold him down. I think Jones is better there. I think Jones is phenomenally better striking wise.
How do you see Jones with Ngannou?
The Jones I saw fight Santos ringside, I can't see losing. Like unstoppable.
Why is that? What made you say that? Because a lot of people have been heavily critical of Jones against Santos. What is it that you saw ringside?
I saw Jones get hit with the hammer of all fists, like hit. Like it looked like he got hit with by a small car, like just like clean, flush chin. The sweat blew off his face, and Jones didn't care. He didn't care. Didn't even shake it off. Didn't need to. Kept walking him down. And Jones didn't even decide. He chose not to employ any of his other skill sets. He didn't have to. Like he just was happy just piecing him up and striking like him. He couldn't be hurt by a dude that is a very heavy hitter in the division. Very heavy hitter in the division. And just pieced him up.
I think Santos is underrated in that regard. Like people don't really understand. Like if he hits you, he hurts you.
Oh, he's got. I can't even. I'm lost for words. He's got concrete in his hands.
Like I said it before in a different podcast. I remember we were in Vegas for, might have been your fight with Romero. I don't know which fight it was, but or your fight with Natal it might have been. But anyways, I was in the lift, and he got in the lift, and I didn't know who it was because he was fighting in middleweight, and I was expecting someone smaller for middleweight. I didn't put two and two together. It took me a couple of seconds, then I realized who it was. I wasn't like completely lost. But he's a lot bigger than people think. And at light heavyweight,
he packed serious whack. And I saw the kicks he was throwing. I saw the punches he was landing. And nothing fazed Jones. Nothing. Didn't deter him in the least. Like, didn't affect him mentally. Didn't affect him physically. He just kept doing his thing. And that's without threatening takedowns or anything. Like, I just don't see that Jones losing. I see it very hard. Because technically he's... Honestly, in like the heavyweight division, I don't see him technically outclassed by anyone across the board, and physically, like from what I saw, like from ringside, I can't see him losing.
Okay,
and that's that.
David, that's us then, eh?
That's us. Yeah. But wait, there's more.
But we have to go to the GAP program.
That's right, we are.
Guys, signing off. One more week as the Mortal Kombat champion. Fabricio with Dave.
No, Rob, I won last week. You can't do that.
Come on,
Dave,
buddy.
who won?
Go, Dave, who won?
Dave, who won?
I can't fucking remember.
Oh,
Dave, who won?
Dave, who won?
Dave, who won?
Guys, go back and watch last week's episode.
Go back and watch
tell us
last
in the
week's.
comments who won.
You know who won.
You know who won,
Even
guys.
as shattered as I was, I still beat you.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Peace out.